Okay, it's not working.
Okay. You did half of it.
Well, my logo's great. That's good.
Okay. Okay. I
Hold
like
on,
the
let me
music.
get the chat up and running. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the video piece isn't working. I have, graphics and stuff, and it
That's
just is stuck on
interesting.
the first graphic. So maybe I need to, well, I don't know. I don't think it's Canva's fault because it's no longer in Canva.
Right.
So
It's just
yeah.
continuing to work with all the technology and making it all work. It's also always something. We've been
Yeah.
using Zoom for how many months? I mean, Zoom has become, it's like Google, right? It's something everybody does. How many times do we get on Zoom and something is wrong with our sound? Like, it's every single meeting. How do we not have this down yet? I mean, seriously.
Okay, so on Zoom, on your Zoom, because my last time I updated Zoom, now if I do air quotes or I do thumbs up, you get like balloons and sparkles in the
Yeah.
background.
Mhm,
Yep.
mhm. Which
Yep.
is super disrupting if you're actually
Yep.
like doing a presentation for lots of people.
Yes.
Like,
So
hey,
now I got to go in the settings and figure out how to turn it off because it's
no, you can't
fun,
do that.
right? If it's a coffee chat, it's fun. But if I'm doing a
Right.
class, this is not so cool.
That's exactly right. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hey, Rachel. All right. So we have some bloopers, and the one that's affecting us now is Restream is cutting off our names.
Yeah.
So for anybody new, I'm Tanya Bugbee with Tanya Bugbee Coaching and Consulting, and you are
Charlotte Harrill. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlotte Harrill, a market leader with a mortgage company over here on the East Coast. I'm a little bit far away from Tanya, just a little bit.
just a little bit. So we've got, hey, Susan. Hey, Kylie. Yay, Rachel. So I've watched, obviously, well, quick story. I was leaving Oregon less than a week ago, and I literally got out about 2 hours before they shut down the airport because of snowstorms.
Yeah,
But now
yeah.
they're your way, right? Aren't you guys freezing right now?
We had a little bit of snow earlier this week, and then we were like in 3 degrees, which is cold for us. I mean, we're in Kentucky, so sometimes it gets cold, but 3 is rough. Dawn in Chattanooga, she got into some low temperatures, and we got about 4 inches. I think Knoxville got like 6 or 7, but it's supposed to come back. Maybe while we're on the phone now, I might get some more snow like tonight. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. I like my
Yeah.
snow because it only stays here, stays for like 3 days and it goes away. Unlike Oregon, which is like it's just constantly in the state of snow, right? We don't
Yep.
have that issue. We have a little bit of ice, a little bit of snow, and then it passes.
Yeah.
We all freak
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got clients all the way across the country. So I'm just like watching them put their jackets on every day. I coach I'm coaching somebody in,
That's right.
New Mexico. Oh, Texas. Now it's Tennessee. And, Susan, you're up next. I know she's far east.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. All right. So we are here, Charlotte. And again, I apologize for not having our logos and our names and all of that. Restream is doing something funky today. Charlotte is a phenomenal leader. She's been in the mortgage industry for a long time. Of course, you and I go way back when you were with Wells Fargo, right?
Yeah.
And a newbie, or right, just getting,
It's almost, is it 8 years? Is that right? Is it
yes.
been 8 years? Eight,
Yep.
8.5? It's been a long time.
Yep. Yep. Right. And you've grown phenomenally. Like I can't, leaps and bounds your growth. So what was it like when you first started? Because there's a lot of people, I hope, listening that are realtors, lenders. It doesn't matter. It's your first sales call. It's your first listing. It's your first mortgage. How did you handle that?
So I'm going to give you two answers because I kind of started once and then
yes, I
got
know your
out of the
story.
business.
Yes.
And then I came back into it like 2 years later in a completely different realm. So the first time I really started in the mortgage industry, I worked for a very high interest rate. I don't know that there was anybody doing worse loans as far as like clientele, low credit scores, bad stuff. Finance company. It was a finance company that we were doing mortgages. And we would literally go through and look for foreclosures. We would look for, we'd go through the phone book. Seriously, like that is how we got leads. We didn't have a good lead source. We did have people that had applied for regular finance loans from a sister company. We would call, if they said they owned a house, we were literally calling these clients and just saying, hey, do you need to consolidate your debt? And so I learned how to cold call. That's how we grew our business. And that was something I was a natural at because I love to talk to people on the phone. I had a couple, like, I call them my cold call hacks. Like I would call and say, hey, can you hear me? I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Hold on. My phone is being bad. And then I did like Can
See,
you
I
hear
did
me
not know
now?
that. So I know something new about you. That's a good tip. I got to remember that.
It makes you human. They don't think you're a cold caller and you can actually like talk to somebody. So that was like my gangbusters trick. I'm telling everybody my secrets. So that's how I started, and I grew from there. And then I started working without realizing. I started working by referral back then because I remember I would take everybody when we were at closing, and I would have them fill out this form. It's just like, hey, who's your friends and family that need a mortgage? And I would start doing that. So I built from there. But honestly, that was an interesting time. It was a great place to grow. It was a great place.
Yeah.
And then I ended up being an account executive, which is a completely different part of sales. So I went from that to selling directly to low end clients,
Mm-hmm.
low credit score clients, I should say, to becoming an account executive is where I would sell to other mortgage bankers. So my who I was selling to completely switched. And that was a totally different sales cycle. So when I went into that realm, that was literally repetitive door knocking. So for all my lenders out there, this was like what we do for agents is what I was doing for other lenders. So I would go to all the other lenders and I would be like, hey, use me for your money. Hey, use me for your money. And I found that if I could be the expert in their business, not my business, but in their business and how to grow their business, they would use me because I was growing their business. And then,
Mm-hmm.
so I came out, and then when I got back into it, I was a regular old, just I'm a mortgage banker, just doing loans for people, both Fannie, Freddie, all the normal stuff. And I used that same method. I went back in. I'm like, okay, well, this worked when I was an account executive. How about if I go to my agents and I find ways to make them be awesome at their business? How can I
Yes, you
grow
do.
their business?
Yes.
How can I do that? And then they're going to want to use me. And sure enough, it
Yep.
worked.
Well, so I'm gonna do a huge brag. You definitely deliver. I want to say over deliver, but I'm not going to say you over deliver, but you give your book of business of real estate agents phenomenal, not just service, but training.
We like to train. So, and it's
Yep.
kind of cool because I'm not in that realm anymore. Now I'm actually leading a team who loves to do the same thing that I do, which is awesome.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I lead this team, but now I actually just kind of get to be like the cherry on top. So I get to go train agents and I get to be this,
Yep.
I'll go and speak at an event or do some training and take some of the things that I've learned and pass those on. So
Yep.
it's wonderful. I love it. So it's easy to do because it's something I really enjoy doing. So
Yep.
win-win.
Yep. Yeah, it's a win-win. And that's what makes you successful. That's certainly your superpower, right? Is educating and training,
Yeah.
right? That's the
Yeah,
explorer in you.
helping somebody
Yes.
market. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, if somebody was new coming into whatever sales role they're in, find out who your client is and what do they need, even if it's not exactly what you give. I mean, it needs to be in your realm. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if they need a haircut, that's not what we want to do if we're not a hairstylist. But what do they need? What
Sure.
does that clientele need? And meet their needs,
Right.
regardless of the outcome. Go meet their needs and show that you are an expert in meeting that need, and that will build. People are going to do business with people they like, so it just
Right.
builds on it. Whatever you're selling,
Well,
that could be.
you're right. And so one of the books I recommend is Ninja Selling, and they talk about that in one of their chapters. It's about 3/4 of the way through the book, and they talk about find your client's pain point
Yeah,
and solve it for them.
give them solutions. Yeah,
Right.
so
So if it's a seller who's worried about all their memories in a home, how are you going to help them solve
how
it?
can you
Right.
help them solve that
Right.
problem?
If you've got somebody who's worried about their low credit score, or a realtor who's,
Trying to get their name out in the business and do
yep,
marketing, right? Any of those
yep,
things. That's it,
yep,
whatever that is. And I actually heard a realtor in my market say this the other day, and I thought that is super cool. They said what they do when they have a listing is after the inspection, part of their services, they tell them not to worry about the inspection. Hey, when that inspection comes back, we're going to go over it. We take care of all of that for you. I've got the subcontractors set up. I've got everything. We'll get those done. And I thought, well, that's a cool thing. Talk about taking peace of mind. That's one
yep,
of those steps above. So if you're talking to someone, they're like, yeah, my house is a dump and I don't want to sell it. I've got too much work to do. Well, here's the solution
yep,
for that, which I just think is super cool. I thought that was
yep,
a similar way of selling as an agent.
yep. So on your very first mortgage, and you're doing a pre-qual and all that kind of stuff, what got you through it? Can you
Oh my
remember for
goodness.
that far back?
Can I just
Our-
go back to when I re-entered? Because no, I don't remember that far
yeah.
back. My goodness,
I mean, I
I'm pretty
remember my
sure.
first listing presentation. I do,
Man, I mean, you have to understand, I was 19 years old.
I know.
That was a long time ago. I have had children. I don't know that I remember that, but I do
Do you
remember.
remember the feeling?
Sure, I was a nervous wreck. I mean, a
There you go.
completely
Yeah.
nervous wreck, and even coming back. So I had had all this experience, but when I came back in 2012, I want to say is when I came back in. When I came back in, I had all this experience, but I was wearing a different hat in the industry. And the industry, if you guys know, the industry changed quite a bit from when I exited in 2010 to when I re-entered in 2012. That was when all this stuff was topsy-turvy. So I came back in and I remember this was my first time doing a loan. I was flying by the seat of my pants. When I tell you I had no idea what I was doing. Like I understood the lingo, but I didn't know the rules. I didn't know anything. So I'm one of those that I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to fake it till I make it. I don't hesitate. I think you call it my go button. I've got a really quick go button. So I remember I was nervous, but I took the application. I still remember that client. They're fantastic. I think if Dawn is still on here, I think Dawn was my first purchase referral. So I'd had other clients that were from Wells, but Dawn O'Neill was the first agent that sent me a referral. And that's one of my favorite stories, too. So we'll get to that one. Dawn, we're going to talk about a rooster today. Um, so, so yeah, it was nerve wracking, but I jumped in, and you just learn as you go. And if I had a question, I'd be like, "Hey, let me get that answer real quick. I'll call you right back." And they didn't know I was ignorant. They didn't know what I didn't know. They just let me go on, and I did it.
Yeah.
And it was super
Yeah.
exciting when I closed it.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling you probably had a few mentors or places you could go to get questions answered, right?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not as much as we needed back in the day, but we definitely had at least a path, and there was people around me, so
Yeah.
that helps. Hey,
Yeah.
if you are new in the business, find the people that have been doing it and buddy up to them. I mean, you got to elevate, right? So
Yep. Absolutely. Right. I mean, I say that with I have a new realtor that's brand new. She's 24, newly licensed, you know,
right,
and she's so worried about why would anybody use me? Like when
right,
I go to a listing presentation, I don't have testimonials yet. I don't have, a history. And so we're working on the verbiage on that
right.
because has their first in something, right? And
That's right.
we got to plow through it. Yeah.
I mean, that people work with who they like. That's
Yeah.
that is the bottom
Like,
line.
know, and
So
trust.
that's it. So
Yeah.
what can you do to get in front of the people that are going to like you? Make sure that they know what you do. And as far as the trust factor, as long as you know, I say this all the time to my team. Like they're like, well, they can go somewhere else and get this done. Sure, at a better rate. Maybe, possibly, sure. Can they do it as good as you? Truly, like, do they care as much as you? Can you say that you honestly know that everybody around you cares as much as you? No, you cannot. There are a lot of this
Mm-mm.
people in this world that care about the dollar. They care about other things that are on their plate, and they're not the top priority. So I
Right.
feel like as a new agent or as a new mortgage person, letting whoever you're working with know that they are top priority and you are truly committed and you know that you are the very best person for them. I know I'm the best agent for you because I am 100% committed to getting this household and I'm going to do it the best possible way. I've got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That is true. That you don't have to be
Right.
in the business for 15 years to mean that. It is true.
No, right? No, and knowing your superpower. So, somebody's superpower might be that, that they give so much, right? We have
Right.
people, we have the Mother Teresa's out there that are all about, giving, and we all are giving, and there are people out there that's their superpower. Like,
That's it.
wow.
Yeah.
And then there's people like me where, my competitiveness, I'm a dog with the bone. I'm going to make sure we
Right.
cross that finish line with the best possible deal.
Right.
That's my superpower. Probably wouldn't say how giving I am.
Right.
But we got to know it, right? And
Right.
mean it.
You've got to
Yeah.
know it. And then you're going to attract that same person. I think that
Yep.
means a ton. Yeah,
Absolutely. All
absolutely.
right. So what's the story around Dawn you
Oh,
want to
this,
share?
this was a really fun one. So remember, this is like one of my very first loans back in the business, and how we source deposits has changed because honestly, the reason is not even, most people think the reason that we source every single penny is because we want to make sure that there's not, ISIS money or some terrorist or something that is coming from an
Mm-hmm.
illegal source, which that is a part of it. It's part of the Patriot Act. But the reality was back in 2007 and 2008, sellers were giving the buyers money for down payment. That's
Mm-hmm.
weird. We would have in a house appraised for 100,000. The seller would only want 80,000. So somebody with a
Gotta remember
520,
those.
right?
Yep.
So somebody with a 520 credit score could go buy a house with 20% down. They would go rub elbows with the appraiser and say, "Hey, I need this appraised for 100,000, even though they're really buying it for 80." That way, the seller can just give them the 20% down and they'd get it back, right? Because it comes out of
Yep.
your pocket. Super shady, but back in the day, it was just happening, right?
Yep. I remember.
So
Yep.
the sourcing of funds is to one, make sure it's not coming from an illegal source, and truly to make sure that it's not coming from the seller, to make sure that our value and our purchase price is valid, so that we don't have another situation where we're upside down and the economy collapses. There's a whole lot
Right.
to say. I had a weird deposit. I had a deposit that was just a $500 deposit, but with USDA, you've got to source. Back then, you had to source anything $1 or more. They have, thank goodness, loosened that a little bit with just an LOX. But now, at this time, if it was over $1, you had to source it. It was a $500 deposit. I called this buddy up. Third loan that I had closed, remember, and then my first referral, mind you, from Don. Hi, Don. And he says, "Well, I don't want to tell you where I got that money."
Ah.
Like, what do you mean you don't want to tell me? Fess up. This is just you and me talking. I'll figure out a way around it. What do you got? Third loan. I'll figure out a way. I can figure out everything, right? He's like, "Yeah, well, you see, I like to gamble on cockfighting." I'm like, first of all, that's very illegal. You can't gamble. You can't cockfight and gamble. This is not legal. Completely not legal. So I remember I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay. Okay.
Well, we know you're a phenomenal problem solver. That's another superpower. So how did you get yourself out of this one?
Well, we had him go open a new bank account and let it sit for 30 days, got rid of that one, got rid of I mean, we had to wait. There was no time around it. We had to wait for that one to go away because USDA wants every bank statement. So we closed that bank account so there was no trace of it. It was a mess, but Don and I have a good laugh over him on a regular basis. And he's actually come back to me. I think I've done 2 or 3 loans for him now.
Nice.
But we did give him a little rooster figurine at closing and told him that maybe he shouldn't cockfight anymore. It's really a dirty and nasty thing. So.
It is. However, I love that you gave him a rooster at close. You know.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
super cute.
I had done the silence after he told me that was like, okay, that's going to be a tough one.
Yep. Yep. Okay, everybody listening, everybody in the chat, even if you're Kylie, right? You have your own stories in your own industry, realtors, lenders, you know, I see a lot of realtors. You know, what's one crazy thing in like 5 sentences? Everyone has seen it. Like, you know, I joke, I mean, I don't joke about it, but it is hilarious because at the time when this happened, I was horrified.
Right.
Now, being at my age and my maturity, I would have handled it way more fun.
Right.
Right? Not that I would have participated, but I wouldn't have been so horrified and shy about it, right? So I'm showing homes and to a, you know, very professional couple, and I walk into a very nice home with a full-blown 8-person, I think, didn't wait long enough to count, orgy. And when I say I think I've seen it all, I have now seen it all. And I was just so horrified. Today, I'd have more humor in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen some crazy stuff. I think some of the craziest, we had one that we closed. This was back when I was at Wells, and the title company had recorded the wrong deed for the wrong house on the entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
They were one lot over. So I think it was in Middle Tennessee, and it was the largest title insurance policy claim in the state of Tennessee ever, because basically everybody owned their neighbor's house. That was fun. This is the reason why you get title insurance, folks.
Yes.
This is why you get title insurance. And just because it's a new construction doesn't mean you don't need title insurance. Title insurance is a good thing. I'm a lender and I get title insurance on every single house.
Everything. Yeah. All right, Charlotte, we got some good stories. Marianne, I know this story from you. House burned 3 days before close. I know that one. I knew this one from Nancy too. Couple sleeping in bed when I went into show. Yep.
Oh no, Dawn has one. I wonder if Dawn is still on.
Oh, it's still on. Yep. And I love Kylie's. I've had an angry teenager post a nude photo on mom's realtor Facebook page. See, that's when we think we've seen it all or heard it all.
Dead. Renter in the shower. Oh wow, that's great.
Renter in the shower. Yeah, we've all seen that one. You know, homeowner forgets to tell the renter someone's coming, or the renter doesn't care.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that whole don't count your chickens before they hatch and don't count your closings before that. This is a super funny story, but a perfect example of why you don't. Dawn and I had a client, and I think it was the day before, week before, it was within a week of closing. She got hit by a train.
Oh no.
Like you can't, when
You
you say
can't
it,
make
like,
this stuff up.
right, you can't say, you might say, hey, it doesn't, it should close, but unless somebody gets hit by a train, she literally got hit by a train. Like that is crazy. So we've had closings that you would think were 100% done, that something that crazy can mess it up.
Yep. No. I mean, I have my own true story. I wasn't a real estate agent at the time, and I was just had babies, two, I think they were like 2 and 4, and we were being relocated from California to Florida. And 3 days before close, the brand new Megan's Law, so it was brand new. So a lot of realtors didn't know about it. That amendment, for knowing the sexual predators in the neighborhood is
Right,
Megan's Law, right? Well, the realtor forgot to give it because and I understand how. I mean, because it just came out. It's a new, you
right.
know, document. Forgot to pass it out and gave it to us. So we went to the sexual predator site, and the neighbor was a sexual predator under house arrest for abusing
Oh,
girls under the age of 10.
oh my goodness. I
So we
bet.
backed right out.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
right. I mean, there's just no way I'm moving into this home.
Yeah,
And we had
yeah,
probably put to 5,000 down, or
yeah.
3,000 down, whatever it was at the time. And we got our deposit back. Otherwise, the realtor was going to be given it, because I mean, I felt sorry that they forgot, but we had
Yeah.
removed all contingencies. We're ready to move in. And then we get this document. So I'm sure,
Mhm.
the broker had to jump in and fix it. And I felt bad,
That's
but
frustrating because they paid for the appraisal, they paid for inspection, they've got money invested into this house.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy story. So the best, my very favorite story. She's actually an agent that I worked with, but I helped her with her house, and she had a deposit that I had to source. This is another fun one. Most
Yeah.
of my fun stories are about crazy things because we have to get snoopy on bank statements. She had a large deposit. It's like a $12,000 deposit, and I'm like, hey, what is this $12,000 deposit? She's like, oh, I sold a zebra. Excuse me. True story. She had sold a zebra. Do you want to hear the best part of the story? Is if you sell something, you have to count that and make that, wash it and document it. It's got to be like a car where it's got a title. You show the bill of sale. You show the title transfer. You know what zebras have? Exotic animal certificates that have
There
to
you
be
go.
filed. You have to have a bill of sale. I was able to count it. So I was able to source my $12,000 deposit. Yes, you're right, Don. You got it. Or Shane, she knows. It's one of our favorite agents, and I always just call her High Zebra Lady. She's got some really cool exotic animals. Oh man.
Okay. So on a serious note, and we do have a lot of realtors on the call, and lenders. Thank you for all showing up, and non-realtors and lenders, and that's even more fun. So thank you, Kylie. What's new in the lending world? What do we need to know?
Well, if you've been looking for buying a house in the last 12 months, the rates have dropped a nice amount since from what they were like 6 months ago. So we are seeing people that were in the market and just realized, especially with affordability and houses being so expensive, that they couldn't buy because rates were at 7.5% and even 8%, right? They have come back down. We're in the low sixes. I know that sounds high, but really
That's normal.
it's normal, and the difference between 7.5 and 6.5 on a $300,000 deal is a couple $100. It's a decent amount. So what you can afford does go up. So I would venture to say we're at a really nice sweet spot for somebody that needs to buy right now because
Hmm.
the rates have dipped, but they haven't dipped so much that we have a flood on the market. So it might be a really good time if you are in the market anyway. I'm not one of these people that says now is a great time to buy. Now's the right time to buy if you need to buy. If you don't own a home and you can get into something that you can afford, now is a good time to buy. I'm currently sitting at 3.5. I love my house. It's big enough for me. I'm not going to go whim buy right now. But if my circumstances change, this would be a good time. So I'd say rates changing has been a big one.
Yep.
Um, some other things that changed recently, and I think actually you talked about this on your show a couple of weeks ago. but it's a big deal. And it's a big deal, especially for affordability. And if there are any investors out there that are doing any new construction, twoplexes, threeplexes, and fourplexes, the gates just opened up very wide for people to be able to buy these and use the income from the other units to help with affordability. So we're all out here talking affordability. Nobody can buy a house because it's too expensive. Well, cuss. If I can buy a house and have a renter or two help subsidize my mortgage payment, even at 75%, that's what we look at, is 75% of that rent. So we try to be conservative on that. If you can get that, that's going to really help you buy more. So the issue with that, it's an amazing product. It lets you do it on Fannie and FHA now, and Fannie and Freddie are more generous with that than FHA.
Yep.
The other thing about that is it does, the thing that's the bad part of it is there's not a lot of those on the market. They're hard to find. Before this even came out, they were hard to find. So I literally, every time I talk to anybody, and I urge all of you out there in the real estate world, every time you talk to a developer, tell them to start pushing for 2 and 3 and 4 family homes. That's a huge deal. 0% buyer broker compensation, seller can pay the compensation. Yes. No, they have not. But so the answer to your VA question is no. Is it on the table? Yes, absolutely. But the buyer cannot pay any compensation right now, and that has not changed.
Yeah.
So that I feel like that's getting into the whole lawsuit stuff, but I feel like when more big change happens, more directives come for realtors, then the VA will react. They're going to have to react some way, one shape or form. And I would love, can I get on the pedestal for just 2 seconds on that?
You got 5 seconds.
I've got 5 seconds. Realtors, people in the lending industry, start petitioning heavily for all of the Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA to not count commissions into the buyer's closing cost. When there is a change to where the buyers now have a commission that is a buyer's commission, even if the seller is paying it, we need to start petitioning now and using that verbiage every time we can, every time you see a petition, every time you're doing anything. I don't know that we're going to be able to finance it in. I think that is a big deal. However, I would say that getting it to not count as part of your 4 or 6 or 3%, that way the seller can pay it on top of that, is huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I put up Susan's comment, and in between Susan's 2 comments was Nancy who had a question. But Nancy, I clicked on the delete button by accident. So I didn't intentionally delete you, but I did. So if you're still here, please repost it. Hopefully I didn't like make you leave the live. But with my luck, I might have. But Nancy, if you're still listening and you can repost, because I clicked the wrong button when I wanted to put it on the screen.
So Susan is talking about the VA thing again, and she's asking, she's got a ton of buyers. So just FYI, the buyer can't pay any commissions. The lender credit, if you actually had one of these come up right now, before any laws have changed, the lender can pay those things. So it just can be that the buyer can't pay them. So a lender could pay for something. So you might need to coach your VA client to take a higher rate so that they get a lender credit that could help with that. That works for some people. Sometimes there's no lender credit available, so it doesn't help for everybody. But if you've got a ton in your market, just remember that it's just the buyer that can't pay it. So another party can.
Yeah. So, very cool. I learned something every time you get on, and the industry changed. So the lesson here for realtors is, all right, first of all, I didn't finish my sentence, but I will. What states are you able, your team, are you able to, or are serving?
Yeah, my team is basically everywhere from North Carolina, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Alabama.
Okay, that's huge.
Pretty sure I got, basically, if you just look at that East Coast, we're somewhere in that area. Yep. So we cover all of those states. We don't cover Ohio. That's a little further north. We've got people with the company that do it, but my team specifically is just in that little hand, if you will.
Yeah, but that's a big hand, actually. And everybody here, most of you are in that area. Not everybody, but most of you are. So if you have questions or want to reach out to Charlotte, She's easy to find on Facebook, LinkedIn, especially Instagram. Again, I'm sorry for the glitch on Restream where I normally post our names and how to find us, and it's not working. That whole section is just for some reason not working for me today. So
I'm really
Charlotte, go
easy to
back.
find. It's just hashtag dancing mortgage girl. So if you ever need to
Yep.
find me, just hashtag dancing
Well,
mortgage
and I
girl.
was just going to end our call today knowing, because I always ask, like, what do you do to relax? What do you do to, detox stress? And don't say anything, Charlotte. Who knows the answer to that? Who wants to type it in the chat? What Charlotte does to kind of relieve stress, get back centered. I know the answer. She knows I know the answer. Come on, somebody. Dawn. Come on, I'm waiting. 2 more seconds. Somebody post it.
Hi, Rachel knows.
There it is. Dance.
It's a good salsa dance. Yeah, my husband knows if I'm grouchy, just to put his hand up and let me spin. That's all. Just let me spin. That's right.
Smart hubby.
I wish I could tango, Susan. I'm not the best tango, but salsa, I got salsa down.
Yes, she's got the salsa down. Yep. Yep. I know that when you come out to the West Coast, that's typically you find some place to go dancing.
Yep. Anywhere I go, it's always fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for spending a half an hour with me. I knew we would be. My cheeks are tired. And
energy.
Right. Well, before we hang up, I didn't actually ask this question. Does anybody have a question for Charlotte? So unless you're in a rush, Charlotte.
No, you're totally fine.
Dancing with the Stats. Yeah, she's all over Instagram. If anybody has a question for Charlotte, please ask. And I love how you guys are interacting with each other. This is getting better and better when like Susan's interacting with Rachel and all that kind of stuff. That's very, very cool. Doesn't look like there's a question, but if you put it in the chat later, because all this will go to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, you'll see it. You can obviously write in a question or at least connect with Charlotte that way. Okay. All right. Thank you for spending a half an hour, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.